Girlfriend, we need to talk. Conversations with outstanding women.
Okay, welcome. We are doing another video installation for Girlfriend We Need to Talk with Cindy Wahler because, she was so helpful and informative last time that we're going to do a few of these actually, just short little bites for you to watch and get some advice in these troubling times. So for those of you in business who own business, who's running businesses, what we're going to talk about today is stakeholders and how the vision of the stakeholder in your business is changing given our current climate. So I'm interested in your thoughts on that.
Thank you so much, Leanna, for having me again. I am now seeing you possibly more regularly than some of my family members.
Right.
So it's nice to have some consistency in my life and some comfort. So I appreciate that. And as far as the very important topic of stakeholders, if you think about the origin of companies, we would think about it, the stakeholder, as primarily the shareholder. And we now need to look at how companies have evolved, and we now have multiple stakeholders, from employees, consumers, clients, the environment. And so companies need to be able to align themselves with these value sets, with priorities, and with how they're investing in each of these stakeholder groups, because it is these stakeholder groups that are going to determine how long a company is going to be in business for, the profitability of a company, and the longevity of the company.
Right, exactly. So the shareholder is not the top priority right now. What would you say? I know all shareholders are out there saying, what? Wait a minute. I'm just kidding. But who would you put at the top of that list, or anything in particular? Or do you think it's unique to the business that they're dealing in?
So there's a couple of things. So if we put it in the context of this current pandemic, how we treat these shareholders is crucial. And when we always talk about customer comes first, then we also need to think about our employees as the customer. When you don't think of your employees as the customer, how could your customers, the purchasers of your service, really come first? Because it's the employees that are purchasing your culture, contributing to your culture. And if they are unhappy, don't feel respected, don't feel valued, then they will disengage, and you can translate that into the type of rapport and investment they're going to have with the customers the company serves.
Right. And I think that it helps to contribute to that sense of loyalty, so that when all of this does blow over, and it will at some point, you still have those employees and they still want to work for the company. I think that's really key.
I think that's extremely well articulated. So employees are being very watchful and mindful around how companies are being sensitive to everything that they might be going through, from the stress of, as you just suggested, Leanna, the unknown, not knowing when this COVID will dissipate to a significant enough degree that they can return to work, in what form, what does it mean to work at home with little children, toddlers, infants. What does it mean when perhaps your partner has been furloughed or laid off? So those are many accommodations that the employer needs to be sensitive to and make allowances for. One of the things that I hear from some of my client groups, which is heartwarming and important, is that it isn't really, we are learning as companies, it isn't when employees work, it's whether they are able to produce and deliver, and whether they do it at 4 a.m, whether it took them 2 hours and not 6 hours, it doesn't really matter. It's more about those KPIs, the quality of their work, and we need to ensure that we recognize and reward for that, is one important point for sure.
Yeah, and that goes back to our discussion that we had. If you haven't heard the podcast recording, we didn't do video at that point, but I did do a podcast with Cindy a while back about millennials, and that speaks to that remote not being stuck on a certain time frame, etc. But I have seen a lot of positive things. There are many companies that I'm constantly seeing articles on LinkedIn and on the internet about how leaders have, in the larger corporations, when they're able to do this, are contributing a portion of, if not all of their income for a certain number of months towards an employee care fund or emergency fund. And that is the kind of thing, not everybody's able to do that, obviously, but that's the kind of thing that people remember. I think that's
absolutely, it's huge. What
huge.
Sacrifices, personal, family, professional, are you prepared to make to reinforce that loyalty and to understand what your employees are going through and the impact of this? For sure, that has a lot of currency. There's also something very fascinating that my clients have also been teaching me in these past few weeks. It's interesting. So if you look at leaders and the necessity for them to be confident and to be stewards and to instill a sense of stability, what we're also finding is that leaders who are able to show some vulnerability and transparency in their own world has also built a sense of loyalty from employees. So it means you too don't have the answers. You too are stressed with your children running across the room when you're having a WebEx call, or you're interrupted, or you have an elderly parent that might be at risk. Whatever those leaders and senior executives are sharing, it creates a common bond, and it actually diminishes the distancing that you might have or the intimidation that you might have with a senior executive.
I 100% agree. I think that is a really important point to make. Now is not the time for us to think about perfection and image. It's not the time for that at all. I mean, professionalism, obviously, but yeah, that certain level of connection and vulnerability is very key. Very, very good point. Any words of advice for the actual shareholders out there?
That's a great question. So for the actual shareholders, it is about being sensitive to, as we were talking, these multitude of variables that employees are facing, and to what extent are you as a company publicly and collectively portraying and delivering on giving back, as you say, being charitable, as switching their business lines to whether it be personal protective equipment, whether it be supporting frontline workers. How are you paying back the benefits that you've reaped from having a very successful company on the backs of your employees and support of their family members? So that would be, I think, the primary key message. And it's the very important thing that you yourself, Leanna, has raised as the reputation and how to elevate and continue to elevate the brand of the company. Right.
And this is, try and find a silver lining, that the fact that, there is some opportunity to increase that loyalty and that connection, and now's the time to do it. Absolutely. So that's the message I'm hearing, is to increase the human element and really reach out to folks right now.
Spot on. Absolutely.
All right. Well, great. This is a great topic, and we're going to come back with a few more. We're just going to give you a little snippet so that you can help you and everybody else get through this challenging and difficult time. So Cindy, always a pleasure, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Leanna. Looking forward.
Oh, wait, how can people find you? I should definitely throw that in there.
So my website, cindywahler.com, my Twitter handle @CindyWahler, and I'm on LinkedIn.
Perfect. And I'll put that in the show notes, and you can look us up or on at girlfriendweneedtotalk.com. All right. Until next time.
Until next time.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this show, leave a review on your favorite podcast platform and check out our website at girlfriendweneedtotalk.com. You can also email me, Leanna Dell, directly at gfweneedtotalk@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.